Hello, and welcome to Dinner and Drama, the podcast where we dish out a hot serving of drama paired with a recipe for a perfect meal.
I'm Drew.
And I'm Kristin. Let's dig in. Today we're going to talk about the infamous Brian Laundrie. If you've been living under a rock and you don't know who Brian Laundrie is, we'll tell you a little bit more about him today, whenever you're listening, really.
We've been talking about covering this one for a while, and perfect timing, because obviously as we're sort of recording this, we're hearing more and more information. I mean, at least it's sounding like it's coming to a close, or at least a partial close in terms of them finding his remains. So it's been obviously in the national spotlight, it's been in the news. It's been all over TikTok. I'm actually sort of amazed by how many people have gone into this whole mess of search and conspiracy theories and what's going on. Where is he? But let's just sort of start from the beginning, right? Who is Brian Laundrie?
So he's a dude, a white dude. He was 23 years old. He's bald. Bald, yes.
It's a critical part.
It is critical. There's a lot of discrimination against bald dudes, apparently, in this country.
Listen.
He was apparently not from Northport, Florida, but he was living in Northport, Florida with his parents. And he had been on a sort of cross-country trip with his fiancée, Gabby Petito. So they had been traveling around the country in a van. They left from Blue Point, New York on July 2nd after attending Gabby's brother's graduation.
And she's originally from that area, right? She's originally from the New York area?
She is. I believe Island. He is also, but maybe his parents retired to Florida.
So you got Brian Laundrie. He's Gabby Petito's fiance. They're on a cross-country road trip in Gabby's van, correct?
Yep, they're living the van life, which honestly sounds like absolute hell to me. I mean, I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, there's no shower in it, right? It's not like it was we're not talking about an RV van. We're talking about a legit van, right?
Yeah, it's just like a van. No real shower. Van? If the Four Seasons made a van, I could maybe see myself living a van life, but I don't really foresee the Four Seasons launching a mobile unit anytime soon.
I don't even like going to Europe because they have the showers with the spouts so short that I'm literally bending over to try to wash my hair. I don't even like going there, let alone I can't even think about trying to get changed, or I don't know. I know a lot of people love this kind of stuff, the whole cross country and outdooring and hiking. It sounds terrible to me.
I hate the outdoors, frankly.
It just I don't. I know we're digressing, but it just sounds terrible. But anyways, they're on this cross country tour and they're engaged, and apparently that's a good thing to do. How long were they together? Do we know?
She was living in Florida with him for at least 2 years.
So conceivably they were dating maybe for a year or two before that. Then they got engaged at some point and they were living with his parents down in Florida. Fly back up New York. They attend her brother's graduation, and then they depart on this cross-country road trip. And it was a long road trip. I mean, they departed on July 2nd. So this whole sort of escapade starts on July 2nd. So the first that we sort of start hearing about this is around end of August, beginning of September, right?
I think it was right around September 11th. Gabby was reported missing.
But her parents were already on the news, obviously, talking about, hey, we haven't heard from our daughter, at least a couple days before that. Because I remember the whole big thing about it was they had to wait to physically report her missing.
Yeah, I mean, they'd been talking to her off and on, but they hadn't really spoken to her since sort of the end of August. The last phone call they got from her was on the 24th from, I guess, the Grand Teton National Park. And then they got a text later, a couple of weird texts, maybe a couple days later, that they were heading into Yellowstone and there's not a lot of cell service there. And then after
those are the text messages that Gabby Petito's mother didn't originally believe came from Gabby. And obviously we don't know if they came from Gabby, but what is new information, or what was new information at the time, was that she must have still been alive, because on August 27th, witnesses saw her and Brian Laundrie, right?
Yes, arguing. at the Mary Piglet's Tex-Mex restaurant.
Got it. So we know she was alive at least through August 27th. But oddly, we also know that Brian Laundrie returned back to his parents' Florida home with Gabby's van on September 1st. So whatever happened to Gabby, we know happened between the 27th and the 1st.
Right. Also, though, Brian flew home to Florida on August 17th, which that sort of came out only a couple of weeks ago, which seems a little bit weird because he supposedly flew home to clean out a storage unit to save money. But, like, if you're saving money, why are you flying?
Yeah, like, how are you getting a plane ticket? And, like, where was Gabby at this point? She just, like, stayed in the van by herself? That just seems, like, a little odd because they're obviously, like, you know, they're camping. Like, it's you're living in a van. It's not exactly, like...
Safety,
you know,
yeah.
Safety. So, July 2nd, they leave New York. We know that they're in that sort of Grand Teton National Park area on the 24th. Right before there, to your point, on the 17th, he flies back home, but she's still alive. So, I mean, what could he, like, I don't know. It just seemed odd. Like, originally, when we obviously didn't know whether or not she was alive at that time, okay, fine. But we know that she was alive at least through the 27th because of witnesses. Her mom originally thought, you know, hey, I don't know what happened other than the last time I spoke to her on the 24th of August. But we know that witnesses saw both of them on the 27th of August. So who knows what he was doing when he went home to Florida? I mean, and it's weird, right? Because, like, you're assuming that whatever happened, obviously, you know, the autopsy results came back. We know that they found Gabby Petito's body on September 19th. We know that based on the autopsy report, that they basically said that she had been dead for at least 2 weeks at that point, which sort of kind of fits in with this whole, like, 828, 829 narrative. He had to have enough time, obviously, to still drive back home.
Right.
And he went back home on 9/1. So that timeline sort of all fits. We also know that she was when she was found, she had been strangled.
Yes.
So strangulation sounds like a crime that happened, like, sort of not premeditated. I don't know, like there was a lot of theories that I heard in terms of, like, sometimes, like, she was a lot of, like, emotional a lot of times, and so he would, like, hold her very close, and maybe, like, he held her too aggressively. I mean, obviously, there's no excuse for strangulation.
Is a very personal way to kill someone. I mean, I've been contemplating it with Tony for a few years now.
Just a little.
Just strangle him, like,
I just want to strangle a little. It's just, like, a little. Terrible. I know it's a terrible way to die, and you're right. It's, like, a very personal. So I don't know if it's connected to him going back home to August 17th, but you're right. Like, the excuse of this whole case is riddled with just, like, weirdness.
Right. So what most people have seen is this police video, which I guess on August 12th, police pulled the van over. I guess they were, like, maybe driving kind of erratically, and Gabby was visibly upset. And they really focused on Gabby as being the person that was causing the issue. She was very upset. And she kept saying that, you know, it's all her fault. It's all her fault. And then I guess they were arguing about, she said that she has OCD and she was, like, cleaning the van too much or something like that, which sounds a little bit silly. But when they turned the camera on him, they were kind of like, you know, what's the situation? And he was like, well, she's crazy, which I was like, that to me sounds like, you know, like a gaslighting / narcissistic personality disorder.
Well, she's freaking out in the video, and they're asking her, like, you know, did you hit him? Like, and I remember at one point the officer was like, I want to be really clear when you answer this question. Like, did you hit him on purpose, or did you hit him by accident
or something?
And, yeah. So that's August 12th. I didn't even realize it. So August 12th, they get pulled over by the police, or the police sort of come in and address the situation because somebody reported something, I guess, right?
Yeah, there was definitely reports of actually a couple of different incidents. This is one of them. The other one is the Mary Piglet's situation. But
it's on the 27th.
Yeah. So they basically, the cops separated them. They said, you know, you're going to have to separate for the night. Otherwise, we're going to arrest you. So they left Gabby in the van, and they got Brian a hotel room.
Oh, they got him a hotel? Yeah. Okay. So Brian's in the hotel room. Gabby's, which now in retrospect, looking back, you're like, oh my God, that's terrible, right? Yeah. Because of, I mean, it's speculation that he, of course, murdered Gabby Petito, but like, to me, there's no speculation because of what's happened, right? So, okay. So July 2nd, road trip starts. August 12th, argument that involves the police.
Yeah, there's cracks in their relationship, clearly.
There's cracks in the relationship. August 17th. So that's the interesting thing. Was him going back to Florida related to what happened either on the 12th or sort of between the 12th and the 17th? That's, I think, the interesting thing.
Yeah, I don't think that anyone knows the answer to that.
No, and maybe other than his parents. So then,
but he did return to Utah on the 23rd of August. And then
23rd of August,
they had that argument. People witnessed them a couple of different things at this Mary Piglet's Tex-Mex restaurant, which looks delicious. I might add, I looked up the menu. They said that he was arguing with the manager, a hostess, and a waitress, and it was definitely like money related, and he was aggressive. Mm-hmm. So after
that's
that,
on the
Gabby,
27th of August.
Yeah, returned to the restaurant to apologize for his behavior, which also screams like narcissist to me.
Exactly. But then that's the last anybody saw Gabby alive, correct?
That we know of, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of these sort of internet sleuths and these TikTokers who they're really the ones who sort of cracked the case on where her body was found. So let's get to that, because what happened? So so mom hears from Gabby the last time via a text message on the 25th saying heading into Yellowstone, no service. Yep. 27th was the last time Gabby was spotted that we are aware of right now. Yeah.
And then of course Brian returns back on 9/1. So if Brian's involved in her murder, which obviously turns out she's strangulated, body's found on the 19th. We know it happens in that time period. And there's something else that happens in that time period, which is that 26, 27. So pick the not Piggly Wiggly. Why did I say Piggly Wiggly? Oh my God. That restaurant on the 27th.
The Mary Piglets.
The Mary Piglets. And then the 28th, essentially, right? Because again, he needs time to get home.
Right.
So that, that end of August is kind of taken. So what do the internet sleuths find on the 28th?
So these TikTokers spotted this van with Florida plates in the Spread Creek dispersed camping area, which is where her body was ultimately found. It was sort of pulled over to the side of the roadway. And if you look at the video, it's definitely their van. I mean, the hat that Brian has seen is on the dashboard, but there's also like a flip-flop outside the back door, which is hella creepy.
Yeah, just one flip-flop. Just to be clear, it's one flip-flop. And this is a video. This is not a this is a video. Okay, it's weird. This is a video that looks like it's like on a go cam of a vehicle.
It's like a dash cam or something.
A dash cam that's driving past this sort of road, right? Or dirt road. And off to the side is this van. And the people posted that video, not even realizing it. It was other people that were like, hey, caught it, and it's slowed down, and it is creepy. You could clearly see something on the dashboard that looks like his hat, and you can clearly see one flip-flop in the back, like sort of the back
outside
right
the back door, yeah.
Which obviously, in retrospect, could have been, a struggle of something that happened and then that left behind. And I'm sure the FBI knows a lot more in terms of, how her body was found and if there was one flip-flop, two flip-flop, however that looks like. But skip forward, that video, even though that was taken on the 28th of August.
Brian kind of hung around out there. He was hitchhiking near Kotler Bay Village, which is 21 miles from Spread Creek. And some people picked him up, and he thought that they were going to Jackson, Wyoming, but they were going to Jackson Hole, and he kind of freaked out and was pull over and wanted to get out. But
and we don't know why he was hitchhiking, right?
No, but he offered them $200 for this 10-mile trip that they brought him on. And it's like, if you're worried about money, why are you offering someone $200 for a ride?
Now, what we don't know is whether or not he moved the van, right? So that van was in that location. That location is really critical. We'll get back to that in a second.
Yeah.
The van was in that location. And then skip forward, we know that there's a sighting of him because he's hitchhiking and he's in a
the same day,
car.
another couple picked him up hitching near Jackson Dam. So basically, these places where he was picked up were about 22 miles from the Spread Creek. So I don't know why he was going out there and coming back.
Unless he moved it, right? Unless he moved the van somewhere and he was going back and forth. Who knows, right?
Maybe. But he wanted to get back to the Spread Creek camping area, but he only wanted
Do you think he was like going to get supplies and he didn't want the van to be spotted on camera somewhere?
I mean, maybe. Who knows? But he wanted them to drop him off like at the entrance to this area, not to where the van was. It was probably about a 30-minute walk.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't want, not where the van is. So the van is in this area, even though that was filmed in that sort of end of August time frame. The TikTok sleuths don't really sort of discover it until well after Gabby's missing, right? So the missing, again, to remind her parents sort of formally marked her missing on September 11th. Now, Brian returns back home September 1st. So between September 1st, he left he left on this trip with his fiance. He shows back up at home on his parents' house in Florida. No word about, I just imagine, obviously, that his parents were like, where's Gabby?
Yeah.
People clearly asked him. And we know that Gabby's parents were trying to get an answer. And they basically, lawyered up almost immediately, correct?
But also, driving from Wyoming to Florida in, 2 days, that's insane.
So that's what I'm saying. We know, pretty definitively that whatever happened had to have happened on that 28th, right? August 28th seems to be the day, if not the night of that incident. Maybe the incident is what set this whole thing off at that restaurant. But who knows? It sounds like he was angry or whatever.
He's agitated, yeah.
He's agitated. So the internet sleuths find this out, and then that's where the police sort of search, and of course they discover her body on the 19th, and of course the coroner report comes out, and it's strangulation. Okay, so take a step back.
So he's
Gabby. Go ahead.
Back in Florida on the 1st of September with Gabby's van, but no Gabby. We don't really know too much until a couple days later. He supposedly goes camping with his parents on the 6th and the 7th of September.
But again, Gabby's parents have now already said, "Hey, where's our daughter?"
And they
decide to go camping. Was a good idea.
Yeah, because that's what you do when your fiance is missing. And on the 14th of September, so after Gabby was officially reported missing, they seized the white van from Brian Laundrie's parents' house.
Which, after so much time, he's had 2 weeks basically to figure out what to do with this van on the inside, if there's anything on the inside.
And I don't know. I just feel like the cops maybe didn't watch him that closely.
You think?
Well, supposedly they had someone on him, but I'm like, okay, apparently they fell asleep.
So he's home on the 1st. Gabby's, the search sort of starts on the 11th for Gabby. They're looking for Gabby.
Yeah.
Officially, right?
Right.
And technically, his whereabouts are technically known, according to his parents. Still at that time. On the 11th, he's technically known. They
were not saying much. They're assuming, everyone was assuming that he's at that house with them.
Correct. But he's technically not officially reported missing until the 13th of September?
No, it was after that. On the 17th, his parents reported him missing, but they said that they had last seen him on the 14th, but then they revised it to actually having seen him on the 13th. So he now has a week's head start on anybody and everyone.
So, yes, they don't report. This is what's crazy to me. And this is where I'm sort of really annoyed, because I think at the end of the day, what we know now is that his remains were found. Gabby's dead. Can't convict somebody who's not alive. It's strangulation, so there's not really a murder weapon. There's nothing to really tie it together. There's probably nothing left of his body that can even tie back sort of.
I mean, there could be DNA on Gabby's body that they could tie to
Yeah,
him.
but like their fiance, so like you would. I mean, God knows how much of Tony's DNA is on you. So who knows,
Even
right?
on my
like,
neck.
Even on your neck, your hair, gel. I mean, everything. So, I mean, it's terrible, but also like these parents are clearly part of this. Like, there's no doubt in my mind. Now, listen, there's been a lot of crazy conspiracy theories. Like, there's this like entire video of like Brian Laundrie's mom gardening in the backyard, and it looks like she's handing something to a hand. And there's been like secret underground bunkers, which in Florida, like how you can't have an underground bunker because it's basically an entire swamp. Like it's the theories have been quite crazy, but of course they are, because like you lawyer up, you got this kid, he comes home September 1st, no fiance. Hello, who's asking the questions here?
Right. Okay, now you have kids. I mean, granted, they're very small and they're not killing anyone
Yeah.
yet. God knows what the future holds. But
exactly.
if your son came home without his partner and she's missing, okay, let's say he admitted it or didn't admit it. Let's say he didn't admit it. Like, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean,
encourage him to do the right thing, or encourage him to speak to the police.
So this is where the conversation gets interesting. You want to protect your kids.
Of course.
Don't get me wrong. You want to protect your kids. But at the same time, part of protecting them is like just guiding them to do the right thing.
Right.
Part of protecting them is sort of ensuring that everything is settled, as like making sure that the police are not going to come in and shoot you, right? Like because they're looking for you. Like you turn them in and things like that.
I don't think that lawyering up is necessarily like an indication of guilt.
I don't think lawyering up is an indication of guilt. I think lawyering up and then basically not being cooperative, which is essentially what even the police said.
Yeah.
Not being cooperative. Like, so they lawyered up and then they basically didn't say anything. And I was watching an interview, I think it was like Anderson Cooper, with the lawyer that is representing the Laundrie family. And he basically was like, well, you're not going to like the answer, but the answer is that I told them not to say anything. Which, again, just seems like this whole thing just seems like a super large cop-out, because if it was just one thing, okay, if they lawyered up, okay, fine. They lawyered up, they were not cooperative, and then they also just lied. They physically lied, right? Like, hey, last time we saw him was the 14th. Oh, wait, no, it was the 13th, and we waited a week to report him missing, even though he's it's just, none of it makes sense to me.
Yeah. I don't know how as parents you could not feel some type of sympathy and empathy for Gabby's parents. Like, their child is missing.
And then dead, right? Because here's the thing, 2 days later, she's dead. And
the only thing they said was like, oh, I hope she rests in peace. It's like, really?
Well, here's where some of the theories are really crazy, right? Because before they found her body, they did issue a subpoena, arrest warrant, I guess, for Brian Laundrie for using her credit card.
Yeah.
After obviously that September 1st time frame, right? You use a credit card.
Yeah,
right?
It was like right around the 30th to the 1st, probably to get back to Florida.
Yeah. So here's the crazy part, though. If you actually look at the statement from the lawyer says that to make it clear that the arrest warrant is not for the death of Gabby Petito, but nobody had found her body yet. So how did they know she was dead?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he must have told somebody.
Here's the thing. How did she know? Like, well, the thing is, clearly, like, I think it was an accidental sort of slip in terms of like how it was written, because again, once you know that kind of information, it's probably hard to forget it if you're the lawyer. So he lawyers up on the 1st, and now there's all these like conspiracy theories, and they go camping. So like my whole thing is like, did they go camping to just like, again, this is where it's a little weird. Like he comes home. I mean, here, I'm going to walk you through my sort of hypothesis, and I want to know what your hypothesis is. He comes home. Hey, where's Gabby? And he doesn't answer. Hey, like they press him the next day. Hey, where's Gabby? Like, what's going on? And they clearly know something's wrong. Now Gabby Petito's parents are calling and trying to figure out what's going on. And I think now they go into like, oh shit, like something's gone on. And I think they finally get a confession from him. And I like, why go camping? Like, did they go? And there's like, did they even go camping? Did they say they were going camping? And then there's theories that maybe they flew out to the site to make sure that there was no, I mean, they weren't watching them at this point, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's any records of them flying anywhere. I think we would know that.
I don't know. I mean, anyways.
With the stellar police work.
Well, he drove 2 days. So how do we know that they didn't drive back there?
Yeah, true. I mean, you're right.
Right? We don't know if they drove back there. But what we do know is that they were with him, apparently. And then they did nothing. And then they waited to report him. And they gave him a head start. Now, the question I have is, originally, before they found his body, I was obviously convinced that they were just helping him get a head start to leave the country.
Right.
They knew they couldn't cover it up, but at least if they can't find you and there's no murder weapon, then the case remains unsolved. Okay, fine. Then they find remains. Tell us how they found these remains, Kristin.
The parents guided the police right to them because the remains were on one of his favorite trails, one of Brian's favorite trails, which has been up until a few days ago underwater.
And closed.
Yeah,
the whole park was closed because of the police investigation. So we kind of skipped over this, but once they report him missing, they start to search a reserve, right?
Right. There's a reserve about 13 miles from Brian's parents' house. It's a 22,000 acre wildlife preserve.
And of course, half of the internet sleuths are like, this is bullshit. Like, this is a ruse. Like, they're just trying to get you off the scent. Like, the parents are misleading you. And everybody's convinced he's already long gone. He's in Mexico.
He's in Mexico. He's on the Appalachian Trail. He's,
But, like, clearly...
grown a full head of hair, according to
Yeah, exactly. So, but clearly, the FBI is still searching for some reason. They're searching the home. They're searching the reserve. And then
suddenly,
they basically, I don't want to say they shut their search down, but they technically do because they open the reserve to the public. And the day that they open the reserve to the public, the family says, hey, can we come out and help with the search too? Now, here's where I think this is like weird to me. Like, this is super weird. They are with the police very closely. The police, the mom, it's the mom and the dad and the police. Right. They're very closely. Mom is on the trail, and somehow dad meanders away from the trail, away from the police.
Right.
He finds a dry bag, which is obviously a bag that you keep things in to keep them dry. And he's calling he doesn't want to touch it, he says. He doesn't want to touch it because he doesn't want to disturb any potential evidence. And he's
so helpful now, right?
Super helpful now. Wait, this is weird. He calls to try to get attention from the police officer who's on the trail.
He was like, why they let him?
Why? Yeah, exactly. Why they let him meander away is beyond me.
Keeping track of people doesn't seem to be their strong suit. Let's just say
not their strong suit. And he says that he only then grabbed the bag because there was a reporter near him and he didn't want the reporter to get the bag. You can't make this shit up. So he apparently now touches the bag and he brings it to the officer.
Right.
And now the officer gets a message from another officer that sends him a picture that he then shows the dad on the phone. And it's a backpack. And the dad goes, yes, that's the backpack. And that's a journal that we recognize as our notebook. That's our son's. And then the police officer then tells him that they have found remains of a body, partial remains of a body, and that they need to leave.
That was so funny.
And apparently there's no remorse. And I was like, okay, well, Kristin, if you found out, first off, if we found out our dogs were missing and then they found their bodies, we'd be upset. This family's like, okay, cool. I'll just walk out that door.
Yeah, we'll just go. Cool, we solved it.
Something doesn't seem that to me seems like they had their last goodbyes on the 6th and the 7th. And then maybe he was trying to escape. I don't know. Part of me is okay, they said their last goodbyes on the 6th and the 7th. And then maybe maybe they went hiking I know. Maybe they went hiking on the 6th and the 7th to like find an escape route, like find somewhere where he could hide out.
Right. Because supposedly he was adept at like living off the land for extended periods.
Yeah. And then maybe like the parents thought, okay, he's going to be fine until this all blows over. And then maybe they are really surprised that like he didn't make it. Maybe he got eaten by a crocodile. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny this morning when you texted me and you were like, they found him.
They found an arm.
And I was like, was the arm holding a driver's license? You were like, no, a ring.
It was something. And here's the thing. I'm being honest. When they said, I mean, I'm so cynical at this point, but when they said that they found partial human remains, I was like adamant. I was like, how much remains? Like enough that he could still be alive? Like, is he just limping?
Yeah.
And then also, why would you give an arm off? Like, if I'm going to give something away, I'm going to give something away that's not as noticeable.
Right.
But like him walking around with a missing arm, I think that's going to be pretty noticeable.
Well, I thought immediately of that movie Kingpin, where Woody Harrelson loses his hand.
It's just, it's like, I don't know. I mean, if you had to lose one, it's got to be one of the 4 ligaments. What is it? Ligaments? I don't know. An arm or a leg? Which one would you lose?
An arm. And my left arm, because I'm completely useless with it anyway.
Interesting. I don't know. I'm like convinced that maybe it would do a leg. Why an arm? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I'd get a hook for sure, just to intimidate people.
I mean, you have a hook now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. It's like, okay, we digress. So partial remains found. I mean,
they
it's definitely
confirmed
him
today that it's him through dental records.
Mm-hmm. And we don't know how much of him it was, though.
Right. I mean,
so is it possible that he's still out there, just like with a couple missing teeth and a couple of missing limbs? Ligaments. I meant to say limbs. See, this is
yeah. You said ligaments.
I said ligaments. I was like, it's not ligaments.
I don't know. I mean, it does seem awfully fast for him to be decomposed at this point, but it being underwater, certainly that speeds up the process.
But we don't know, because the last people that saw him, this is the weird part. No one saw him other than his parents.
Has anyone searched his room?
Yeah, like seriously, the thing about this, no one has actually seen him
physically,
because they only issued the federal arrest warrant after he was missing.
Yeah.
He was missing on the 17th, and the arrest warrant didn't come out until the 23rd. So he basically
10
was
days
just,
on him, at least.
I mean,
assuming he really was gone on the 13th, I think that on the 6th and the 7th, he went out and never came back with the parents.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think on the 6th and the 7th, they went out all together.
Yeah.
And then the parents came back, and he was not part of them. And the question I have is whether or not they were aware that he was never going to come back, or they thought that he was just going to go and escape, and then something happened and he didn't make it out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's so difficult, though, because there's no closure really for anybody in the situation.
No, that's what makes this whole thing.
Really probably will never know. These
and
parents,
probably nobody will be ever convicted.
Yeah, the parents, they're saying now, won't be charged with obstruction because in the end they did help, which I don't know.
Unless they find something, right? Like, unless they find something. Obviously, like, they won't be charged with obstruction unless, like, something happens later on that they find him. It's just
sad,
Well, there's no closure. It is interesting. This whole case has been interesting. It took everybody, it was... There's also been a lot of controversy as to, like, why she's getting so much attention and so many other people.
She's like a pretty white lady, that's why. But I do think it is bringing focus to other groups of people that are missing, which is good.
Well, here's the thing. Do you know how many bodies they found?
I think 5.
I just found 9.
Oh, God.
9 bodies in searching for... I don't know do you know if that was when they were searching for Gabby, or was that when they were searching for Brian that they found 9 bodies?
I think Gabby.
They found 9 bodies.
I mean, there's so many missing, like, Native American women that, like, never get any publicity. It's so sad and disheartening.
And then this one takes off. And not only does it take off, it's all over TikTok. I mean, we have, like, Dog the Bounty Hunter looking. I mean, it gets a little crazy in terms of, like...
Dog the Bounty Hunter interrupted his honeymoon with his 6th wife to go looking. His 6th wife. 6 women have married him.
He's a very... He looks like a raisin, like those raisin singers, like the old raisin
like the
singers.
California raisins.
The California raisin. That's what he looks like. He's so. I don't know if is he from Florida? He's
got to be from Florida.
Sunburned.
He was in jail in Texas, though, I think.
He's so that doesn't surprise me. He's so sunburned. I don't get it. I don't know. I agree with you. This whole case is just super sad. Her family's not going to get closure, like you said. And then I guess where I'm stuck with is because obviously Gabby has passed away. They're not going to get closure. So like your focus, of course, naturally goes to Brian Laundrie and his parents. Brian now is dead. And so like, I feel like you just like, as a viewer, you're like looking to punish somebody.
Right.
And so my attention immediately goes to his parents, and I'm like pissed because I'm like, you didn't cooperate.
Right.
You must have known something. Like now he's dead. Like now's the time to just like fess up. Like what the hell do you know? But at the same time, I'm also like, why would they? Like, I not to say that that's the right thing to do, but like essentially their son is dead, but he won't have a criminal record, and he won't, unless he had one before, but he won't have a criminal record, and he certainly like won't bring that family. We did the Murdoch one, right? And obviously the Murdoch name and getting looped up into boat crashes and wire fraud and assisted suicide and all that kind of stuff. Their family's like, this will eventually die down and people won't remember us. They'll remember Brian Laundrie, but they won't remember us. But they'll never be able to say that our son killed somebody.
But they won't be able to say that he didn't.
Yeah, and it's just terrible because it's like, I feel like they know. I mean, I think they have to know.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine, like, what's worse, your son being in jail or your son being eaten by wildlife.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. Like, do we think they thought that was going to happen? I mean, I don't know. There's a couple scenarios, right? Scenario one is they don't know anything, and he just refused to tell them, and he refused to tell them anything, but they still were trying to help him. Yeah, right. That's still very plausible. I think they knew. I don't think that is the scenario, but that could be. Scenario two is, of course, they knew and they tried to help him, but with the intention that he was going to somehow escape. Scenario three, I guess, is that they helped him and they said goodbye because he basically said, for all we know, he committed suicide.
Yeah, true. I hate to characterize suicide as a cowardly act because it certainly there's people with mental illness that see no other option. But in this type of situation, I don't necessarily think that him killing himself is the brave thing to do. No, I mean, again, completely different, right? We're talking, you're absolutely right. Like don't even want to sort of classify it, right? But he was like, we've heard this before, and this is why I'm coming up with this theory. There's certainly a lot of people that was like, I would rather die than go to prison. He knew he was going to go to prison for the rest of his life if he was caught. Maybe, but I don't think he was going to. I don't think he was willing to take his chances, right? I don't think he was willing to take his chances. So there's a scenario that he basically says, "Hey, bye. I'm going to spend time with you. Say goodbye, and then I'm going to. I'm not going to prison." I'll just not going to prison. So maybe the parents didn't know what his plan was. Yeah, maybe the parents don't. But that was my question: is like, if you were as a parent, like, this is what gets me, because every little thing that's a potential scenario, you're like, but then wait, why that? Like, so for example, like, I do believe that his parents helped him escape. I do believe that his parents were trying to get him to escape. But then if things turned bad and he got into an accident or he for all we know, he did get attacked by a wild animal. Why, as a parent, wouldn't you freak out immediately when hearing that there's remains found? Unless you knew that was what was going to happen. That's the weird part. That's that part that's weird. Yeah. Why the only thing I can think of you not freaking out is if you find something that you already knew was going to be there. Yeah, true. These parents may be just like numb at this point to all this. Yeah, but I don't think you could be numb when hearing that your kid is dead unless you knew your kid was dead. Like, my whole thing is like, if they like, and by the way, you mentioned it, which is the biggest thing, which is his body's decomposed. It takes a little bit for your body to decompose.
So the only thing I can think of is he disappears on the 6th, and that's about it's about 6 weeks for it to decompose.
Yeah. Well, also remember it's a swamp, so it's humid AF, hot. There's tons of bugs.
Yeah,
and
but you're
critters.
not decomposing down there.
So repeat it. What'd you say?
But you're not decomposing down there. But it's flooded.
Let's get to the important stuff. What dish are we making with this?
What dish are we making?
So
with
apparently
this?
he was a big fan of granola, Brian Laundrie. So I'm proposing a granola crusted chicken for not turning himself in.
Good one.
With a tamarind sauce.
Well, that sounds this is a weird one because that sounds really good, but also I feel like I'm still salty about like the fact that this is unsolved. Like I like unsolved mysteries, but I hate when they're unsolved for reasons that are not actually unsolved. Right? Yeah. Like this is a unsolved mystery, and
someone may know the answer.
But that recipe sounds delicious, and of course, as usual, it'll be linked below if you are watching this on YouTube or if you're watching this through Facebook or any of our other channels.
Did you check out his Instagram, Brian Laundrie's Instagram?
Oh no, I didn't. But did you see that there was one weird situation that happened?
Well, he does a lot of looks like linoleum carving, which is kind of cool. It doesn't look like original artwork.
He does it?
I mean, well, he posts a lot of stuff about it. I'm assuming he does it. But it's copying other people's work. But he did have some creepy pictures. So, of course, everyone's deep diving into
now everybody's searching down
satanic drawings. But
I don't remember the date, but what was weird was apparently his, when like some people follow you, of course, his people who followed him, his count went up really quite dramatically.
Like screaming at him on his Instagram.
Exactly. However, him following other people, which is you having to do it, increased while he disappeared. So there's a lot of people who are saying like, oh, that's proof that he was alive. But I also to remind people like you could follow somebody and that person didn't accept you until like 2 weeks later, and then it wouldn't increase until that point. So I don't think that's a smoking gun or anything like that. But I don't know. This case is one of these unsolved mysteries. Again, that's super annoying because I feel like it is solved, but it's unsolved. And unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever have the answers. And it's unfortunate for us. Like, fine, it's an inconvenience for us, but it's really unfortunate for Gabby's parents. I don't really give a shit about Brian's parents, to be honest. But
yeah, I mean, I wonder if we'll get any more information or any type of, I don't know, like an interview with them or something. I mean,
they haven't opened up the notebook. Because it was waterlogged. It was found outside of the dry bag, which is also a little odd. And they are trying to dry it to preserve the ink before they open it up. I don't know. I don't have any faith in the FBI at this point, based on the current
situation. Especially in Florida.
No. Not in the current situation of the case. So I guess we'll never know. I guess we'll have to just eat our crusted chicken. Our crusty chicken with tamarind sauce. But it's been a pleasure. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, if you like what you've heard or you saw, depending on where you're watching or listening,
or if you've solved this case.
Or if you solved this case. No, subscribe and then solve the case, okay? Key here is to subscribe so that you get notified on each of our shows and each of our episodes. But with that, we thank you. I'm Drew.
And I'm Kristin.
Well, we're back with an update. As of the airing of this podcast episode, new information's released, so we decided to come back and give you guys an update. So officially, as of today, the official cause of death is suicide by gunshot wound to the head. Now, obviously, when we last spoke, when we recorded this video, the last that we had heard was they found his body. A little suspicious, right? Because his dad found the family found the body on the very first day that the park was open, and they went right to it. And the officer that was like with them wasn't technically with him when it happened, and all this kind of stuff, and they were immediately scurried away. But when we were recording this episode before we knew the cause of death, one of the things that we had suspected was that he had committed suicide, and the question was, when did that happen? And I don't think that they've released anything in terms of when they think that's happened, other than just the cause of death. So we don't know how long they assume he was dead for. Obviously, there was a lot of there was just bones, right? I don't think they found any tissue, so